Hey guys, this is Coach Brian here with Cause Events, and welcome to Coach's Corner. Today we're going to read another article, and this one appeared in Triathlete magazine. It was written by Andrew Sheaf. It was published on September 11th, 2024. That's a little earlier this year, and it's a very good article. It's short and sweet. It's shorter, and it's not as long as some. It's not something like you'd see in the New Yorker, let's put it that way. It's why are triathletes always surprised by swim starts? And not always. A lot of times, your beginners are, or some of the people that maybe haven't experienced some of the different kinds of swim starts. But let's get started. This is a little part of the heading. Though triathletes love to be prepared for the swim at the start of the triathlon, still ends up being a shock to the system. We break down what to actually expect and how to get ready. So, the swim start of a triathlon can be surprisingly difficult. Triathletes will spend hours and hours preparing their swim, bike, and run fitness, but a hectic start to that you're not prepared for can have a ripple effect on the rest of your race day. Even though most triathlon races are considered endurance events, race day often begins with a sprint, which can make settling into an appropriate pace quite difficult. Moreover, some starts are quite unique as there's no one universal way of starting a triathlon. And that means you'll want to be prepared to navigate each type to ensure you have a successful race day. It's true. You want to at least prepare for the start you're going to be doing. So that oftentimes means reading the race material to see what kind of start there is, talking to other people in the race, talking to people like me who I'm an ambassador for Cause Events, and so I know what each race they're putting on has to offer, so I'm going to have a lot more insight than somebody that is coming from out of the area. So there are three types of swim starts: the water, the beach, and the dive. The water start. This type of start can occur either in open water or when the swim is performed in a pool. In many ways, it's the simplest start. You're already in the water, and once the race starts, you just start swimming. It might seem like there's not a lot to this simple start, but going from treading water or standing in deep water vertically to swimming horizontally without the aid of a wall to push off, in many cases can cause a bit of chaos. It's true. Yeah, swim starts are really pretty easy, but you start slow because you're stationary already. The beach start. With the beach start, all the competitors begin on land, and when the gun or horn sounds, everyone runs into the water. These starts can be the most physically challenging because you have to transition from running to swimming and know when to do that, all the while surrounded by all the competitors trying to do the same thing. Okay, yeah, it can be hectic. Now, understanding and vetting yourself in the right place is going to be really important in this start because you have to know your abilities and know your speed. And if you're new to this, try to find a place on one side or the other of the main body of the group or start in the back, but that has its negative impacts because if you get slower swimmers in front of you, and we'll discuss all that, but you have to know, you're going to want to get mid-thigh in the water before you dive in and start swimming. You get in too soon, you get people stepping on you, you dive in too late, and the people swimming up behind you are running into you. So it's a little bit unnerving, and it's know how to do it. So if you're not familiar with it, move to one side or the other, preferably to the outside. So if your buoys are going to be, if you're going to make a right-hand turn at the first buoy, you're going to want to be out on the left-hand side. If you're going to make a left-hand turn at the first buoy, you're going to want to be on the right-hand side. The dive start. As with the water start, dive starts can take place in open water or in a pool. When they take place in open water, they're typically performed off of a dock or a similar structure. When performed in a pool, it takes place from the side of the pool. In both cases, diving is Not strictly necessary, jumping in is sufficient, although not quite as fast. For anyone who dives into a pool, this can be incredibly familiar. For those who don't it or never have, it can be the source of stress. Yeah, and that's why, train for everything. Train for absolutely everything. And one thing to remember is if you're diving into the water, make sure your goggles are on tight. If you keep loose goggles, make sure they're tight for a dive start. Also, you might want to make sure that you put your goggles on under your swim cap, and that's going to help make sure that they stay in place and not get water in them. Challenges of a triathlon swim start. Race starts can be challenging due to the pent-up nerves and anticipation that comes prior to racing. Swim starts are even more difficult for two reasons. First, more often than not, the water is cold. That creates a stress response when you enter the water, and it tends to reduce blood flow to the muscles, both of which can make swimming harder. This is why it's important to warm up in the water before the start of the race, if you can. Some places don't have the facilities to enable that. In those cases, bring a gallon of tepid water and fill your wetsuit. If you can get down to the water's edge, splash some water on your face, get your face in the water. I know when the water's below 60 degrees, it hurts my face until I get used to it. So I like to get in there and get my face in the water and numb my face out a little bit before I actually start. Secondly, almost every swim start consists of a mad dash to establish positioning for the remainder of the swim. You're quickly transitioning from rest to near all-out effort, even when you know you could have literal hours racing ahead of you. In this respect, beach starts can be the most challenging because you're literally running into the water first. Your heart rate and respiration are going to spike, which creates an incredible physiological demand. This is true. And that's why I'm always telling people, don't go in hard, go in easy and cut your pace in half until you've established yourself, and then gradually increase to your maximum sustainable pace. And once you do that, you're going to be just fine. Even if you'd like to patiently work your way into the swim, sometimes it's not an option. If you don't want a lot of slower speed swimmers to get in front of you, because then you'll spend the entire swim working your way through traffic. And just because you want to take it slow doesn't mean everyone else around you does. If you don't want people swimming all over you, a strong effort is often required. Again, that's why find your way to the side of the pack so you're not getting hammered. The washing machine is not the ideal place, but if you're a real strong swimmer and you're willing to fight for position, water polo players know what this is all about. For these reasons, swim starts can be quite stressful, both physiologically and psychologically. Fortunately, with practice and experience, swim starts can become a lot more manageable. All it takes is more familiarity, some practice, and a dose of realistic foresight. True, and again, I say try not to get into the middle of the pack because you get kicked, you get hit, you get beaten up. When I had my torn Achilles and somebody would hit that with their hand, it was just unnerving. It was the amount of pain I was going through. So I always found a way to get a little bit of distance between myself and others, just because I didn't want somebody hitting that Achilles. And fortunately, it only happened a few times, but it was enough for me to remember just, hey, don't get stuck in the middle of the washing machine. A workout to prepare for the triathlon swim start. In all three sessions, there are three main tasks to focus on. First, you want to practice being aggressive at the beginning of each start. Yeah, you got to be a little aggressive. The main challenge of the start is going from rest to close to full speed. This is why a warm-up is essential. Next, you'll want to practice settling into a more sustainable pace. Lastly, it's important to occasionally practice some sighting to ensure you can reliably and instinctively swim straight during the mad dash. And this is really key, is learning how to sight. And it's one of my most popular videos on my channel is the sighting video. because you have to be able to spot the next buoy, and a lot of times you can't because of everything going on around you. So what you want to do is look for the main body of the pack to follow. Even if it's the pack in front of you, you don't want to focus on one or two people, because if they go off course, you'll be right with them and maybe add 50, 100 meters to your swim if it doesn't go well. The main session, start swimming as fast as you can for about 60 seconds. If you're in open water, once you go for about 60 seconds, stop and then swim back to land at a more comfortable place. Be sure to sight on the way out and on the way in. If you're in a pool, after your sprint, continue swimming for about 120 seconds at a controlled pace. For both, the controlled pace should be your intended race effort, not just easy. When I have people go out in the bay with me, and that's where we do a lot of our training is, in Glorieta Bay in Coronado, there's a good swim area, and I have people practice going out hard to the first buoy, run out to the first buoy, run out, dive in, swim to the first buoy, and then easy pace to the next one, maximum pace to the one after that, easy pace to the next one, maximum pace to the one after that, until they've gone the full loop around the buoys. And that gives them interval training. It also teaches them where to find their pace, their maximum sustainable pace. And intervals are great for building your pace structure. Same thing with running, same thing with cycling. While the sessions are constructed in terms of time, feel free to substitute the appropriate distances if you're in a pool, or if there are physical objects you can swim to in open water. Take 2 or 3 minutes between rounds to ensure you give an honest effort for each start, and do it anywhere from between 5 and 10 rounds, depending on your fitness level. These sessions are all similar in nature. What changes is how you're entering the water, which is true. Unfortunately, I've never had to do a dive start. Now, oddly enough, in the Pasadena Triathlon, which is a reverse triathlon, we had the swim was at the end, so we dove in after the bike, after running a long distance, and oddly enough, the water was about 85, 90 degrees, and it was a fairly cool day outside. So you're sweating, you jump into a very, very warm pool, and your body just wants to relax. And it's really difficult to just build a pace back up when your body says, relax, you're in a jacuzzi. No, and you gotta function. You gotta stay focused. And triathlon is a sport that requires that constant focus on the next thing coming, because it's always changing. It's not the same thing again and again and again, like a foot race is, or like a swimming race is. Something is going to change, and it's going to keep changing. Dive starts. This session can be done in a pool that allows you to dive, or in an open water venue that has a dock or some other location you can dive. Begin each repetition from a dive. Beach starts. This session will be done standing on land with a 10 to 20 meter run into the water. Give full effort when transitioning to the swim. Again, get about mid-thigh into the water before you dive in. I don't want you hitting the bottom. In-water starts. This can be performed either in open water or a pool, alternating between different water depths, waist, chest, treading water. Just go from the start. And that's the end of the article. But the key takeaway is there's going to be variations in all this stuff. Be prepared when you go to the race to know how you're entering the water. One thing they didn't cover here is a ocean water start, and that is a bit different than a beach start. It is a beach start, mind you, but then you get in, and now you have to navigate the surf, and you're dolphin diving under the breakers, and that is a whole different skill in and of itself. So if you're doing an ocean water entry, that you have to think about those things. And rarely ever is the ocean so calm where you don't have to worry about that. I've seen it, but it's rare. Okay, that's what we've got with this article. So like and subscribe. If liking it will get the algorithm more attention, and we'll push it out to more people all over the world. Subscribe to the channel. Comment. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, what you have to add to this, because I can do a lot more with comments. Share this with others. Share this with your friends that are considering triathlon to help them understand, and even share it with your family who's going to come watching you so they'll understand what you're actually doing. And if you have ideas or an article or a story that you'd like me to cover, send it to coachbrianscorner@gmail.com. Do make sure it's readable. It's in English, because I only speak English. I can order a beer, a newspaper, and a cup of coffee in German, but that's about it. I can get some tacos in Mexico, just across the border. All right, that's all I have for you guys. Hopefully we'll see you here next time, and you have a great next race, and we'll see you later.